Hello, Victor here from RestoreYourMercedes.com. Today we're going to install the throttle body back into our 500 SL, this I believe is part 6 of removal and installation procedures on a throttle body installation for V8 motors on found in the SLs, S classes and E classes. Now I rebuilt this throttle body. Everything is nice and clean and everything works fine. As you can see, the connector here, a new loom I put on, so it's nice and flexible, military grade cables. I also had to clean inside the throttle body just to make sure, and the throttle plate itself. Of course, this thing was very black and dirty. I cleaned a little bit of an intake, but I didn't want to clean it too much, not to dislodge large pieces, and so they can get jammed inside our intake or inside cylinders, so they get pulled into the motor. So I left that alone for the most part. So I got some parts here that we need. This is the hose that goes from the back of the throttle body over there, right here. It goes like that. And then we have this broken boot. In previous videos, as you can see, it broke off, and I have a replacement one right here. Part number one right here, 0157, and here we have a hose 4482, and of course the gasket piece. The part number is 1280. So this gasket goes underneath, it goes in dry. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer these clamps over. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'll do it later. I'm going to attach the hose. We're going to install the throttle body into the car with this hose attached to the throttle body. It is being attached with this little springable clamp, and I'm gonna pause this video for a second, put it all back together, and we'll start off with installation. Okay, the hose has been installed. As you can see, it's on the throttle body here, and the gasket is here. I still have it enclosed, so I'm going to show you why. We're going to make room here. I'll go on the other side. And now, first thing what you want to do is you want to make sure surfaces are clean. These I have cleaned already on the throttle body and on the intake manifold. So the first thing is to feed this unit back in there. Now, I did not deliberately put the gasket on as of yet, as it goes dry and you do not want to damage the gasket while trying to put in the throttle body. Now, in previous videos you also noted that this little piece, this pipe, came off. I did put it in because later on with throttle body in place it will be very difficult to tighten it, and this is another piece that goes and screws onto this little pipe extension. So I did put it in because it's gonna make life so much easier when throttle body is out the car, so you can tighten it. Later on it's gonna be very difficult to tighten it. You will need a very long deep wall socket to go on top of it through and tighten it. It's just too much, so I just put it in now. Now the hose is brand new. The throttle, it's very pliable at this point, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna push it all the way as much as we can to compress it as much as we can, and we're gonna feed it in there and basically work your way in so the throttle body fits inside this very limited space. And let me see, work the hose up and down a little bit just so it fits. Okay, it's in a little bit, it's a good sign. Okay, and almost there. Usually open the throttle plate and maneuver it a little bit. So far so good. that hose that I just spoke of. Come on now, a little bit more. Just a little bit. There we go. There we go. As you can see, it went in, no damages, everything looks good. So that's how you basically fit it in. Now when throttle body is inside, obviously we really have very little room there to wiggle it around. A second thing you want to do, which is important, let alone that return spring. We'll leave it alone. Now what I did is I actually released the linkage from the zip tie, as it used to be zip tied before. While throttle body is still loose, you want to feed that linkage out so you have it on top, because if you won't do that now, it's also going to be quite difficult to retrieve this little control linkage, which I'm working on right now. You see, this is a little control linkage. You want it to sit on top, you don't want it to drop down. It's going to be difficult to retrieve after all. In some cases, throttle body will have to be removed again, so we don't want to do that. Now, this part here fits in there very snug, so we don't have really much room. But what I do is, not to damage the gasket, I actually installed it. Let me wipe my hands. Just don't want to get any kind of elements on the gasket. So now we want to put the gasket in. So what I do is I raise this unit up as much as I can, whatever I can do with it, just to raise it as high as I could, like so, something like that. And oh, that linkage fell down. Alright, we'll take care of it later. Basically, I'm gonna feed the gasket from underneath. Again, this gasket is pliable right now, so it is possible to, not enough, just raise it up a little higher. Okay, this gasket is very pliable, so it's not really going to break if you're gonna bend it a little bit, but it has more chances of breaking if you're gonna feed throttle body with this gasket attached. So as you can see, I'm feeding this under the throttle body now. Then I open the throttle body and see where the gasket ends up and maneuver it around so it will end up where I need it to be. So you can always raise the throttle body a little bit, move the gasket around, because we also have to line up the holes for the gasket. Alright, so the gasket is underneath there somewhere, and next part would be to line it up. Again, linkage fell down, so I'm gonna have to retrieve it now. Here we go. I don't want to attach it yet, which I could, but I don't want to do so. As a matter of fact, what I'll do probably is I'm just gonna leave it like this, so I can always pull it up when I need to. Alright, so now I open the throttle butterfly and I maneuver the gasket so it lines up with openings underneath there. This one is almost there. Let me see. You actually can see through holes and see where the actual bolts go through. There is one that I seem to have lined up right now. Let's see that. I don't think so. Okay. Right. It is a little bit more difficult, as if the gasket would have been attached to the throttle body. I understand that, but to me, I feel this is safer because you do not damage the gasket when you feed it in when the gasket is attached to the throttle body. So I can do, now it's in place there more or less. gonna take a screwdriver now and align holes with gasket together by raising the throttle body a little bit. There we go. One is aligned. The other one is aligned. This one is more or less aligned also. So now what we can start doing is we can start putting our bolts in, starting with the one that has best aligned position. So make sure that it is aligned. Yep, looks good to me. Also, don't forget the pipe. This pipe pushes on throttle body. Okay, so I'm gonna tighten it with hand right now. See where we are. That's perfect. Tightens up nice, and with no resistance, that means that the gasket is lined up good. All right, now only one screw is in, and I see that the gasket is off on the other bolts. So we're going to align it with other bolts. They're in place, all right. Go like this. Feed another bolt in. Now the gasket is lined up more or less. So let's do the other one. Hand tighten it right now so you can have a little bit of room to wiggle it around. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Now, let me just correct one little thing. Spring clamp underneath. I need to move it a little bit if I could. If I could not, then I leave it alone. There we go. Since throttle body still moves in there, that's okay. I'm going to feed another bolt in, which would be this one. A little bit right now. This one is a little bit out of alignment because of this clamp pushes on it, but I can still make it. So you want to kind of maneuver it a little bit so it's still sort of free. Okay, come down. This is in. Diagonally, I'm going to tighten these things up. Not too much yet. Okay, now I tightened it up a little bit, not too much, just to double check everything. Now we open the throttle plate, look inside, make sure the gasket is not sticking out. Run your finger around the edges inside just to feel if the gasket is not sticking out past the edges. So as we can see, our linkage is still here. And nice and free right in front of the ball, which is perfect. It's good. Return spring is still laying down there. Perfect. Throttle body sits in here straight. Very good. Pipe makes it. Very good. So right now it's going to be time to tighten this thing up. Everything seems to be all in order. So I'm gonna go little by little on each corner. Socket is a little worn off, so I usually do diagonally, just like your regular wheels on the car, diagonally, so the gasket will compress nicer. Okay, in the end, not to go crazy with this socket, what I will do is I actually will use something else. Many people will find this method kind of weird, but this is what I do. I mean, I guess it's not necessary. I just take basically regular Allen wrench here, put it in all the way, and I use basically pliers. I don't know, I kind of like used to it because I kind of have a better feel, so I know that I'm not gonna really damage it because it springs, so I don't want to break the threads. And as you can see, it's like tenses it. I never could find any kind of, well, I guess if I dig into, I will find torque specs for these bolts, but this is a safe way. I never had problems with it. You can see the whole assembly twists, and you can kind of have a feel of how tight you're going with it. You don't have to do it like the way I'm doing it. You can just use regular socket and regular wrench. I don't know. This is just my kind of way of doing things. So, and I actually remove it also with this, because I can kind of have a feel of tension. I can't spin it anymore. So, and one more last time, just to go over. Yep, this is tight. This one, I tighten this just slightly more. And this piece, slightly more. And I believe we started with this one. This was already tight. So, yep. Okay. There we have throttle body in the car. Nice and safe. Nothing broke. And I'll make another part. Let me see how much time I have left. Yeah, I'm already at the limit. Okay, so I'll make another part 7 of attaching pieces to it. I can actually start the car after all, just to double check if it works fine. And I'll continue with mass airflow sensor, and off we will go to put everything back together. Mass airflow sensor, air filter housing, and a couple of hoses.